Before sunrise, a security guard vanishes inside a children's pizza palace, and the building resets as if nothing happened. Tables stand upright, banners sway, and the stage smiles back. That erasure is the first clue that Freddy Fazbear's is not abandoned at all. It is awake, hungry, and patient. What follows is not just a ghost story, but a chain of bargains, buried memories, and stolen childhoods. One grieving brother takes the night shift to dream his way to the truth, and instead meets machines that remember murder and demand a new friend. The doors may open, but nobody leaves. Mike Schmidt is a man held together by routine and regret. Every day he walks through a noisy mall in a cheap uniform, watching crowds drift past as if they belong to a different species. Every night he returns to a small home and a smaller bank balance, trying to be both parent and brother to Abby. Their parents are gone, leaving Mike as the last line between Abby and a world that never learned how to be gentle. He tries to act steady, but his mind keeps sliding back to the moment his little brother Garrett was taken. Abby's drawings are more than art. She sketches smiling bears with empty eyes, rabbits with torn ears, and a yellow figure hidden behind curtains. Mike assumes these are fantasies born from cartoons, but the lines feel like memories borrowed from somewhere else, like a signal sent back through paper. Garrett was taken during a family camping trip years earlier. In Mike's memory, the scene is always the same: sunlight on trees, the sound of an engine, Garrett's toy plane glinting in his hands. Then a stranger arrives with the calm certainty of someone who has rehearsed the crime. Garrett is lifted into a car, a door slams, and the vehicle rolls away while Mike runs after it, helpless and furious. He never reaches it. He never sees the kidnapper's face. The nightmare repeats until it stains his waking hours, leaving him exhausted, angry, and desperate for a clue that will not dissolve. Mike has convinced himself that sleep might be the only path left to answers. He studies lucid dreaming, swallows pills, and chases the hope that he can steer his mind back through time and catch a detail he missed. That obsession costs him his job. At work, he misreads a chaotic moment, believes a child is being abducted, and attacks an innocent father. The consequence is instant. Mike is fired, and the thin safety net under Abby tears wider. Aunt Jane has been waiting for this weakness. She presents herself as responsible family, but her concern is financial. She wants custody of Abby to claim the foster payments and the authority that comes with them. Jane hires a lawyer and builds a case that Mike is unstable, unemployed, and unfit. The threat is not abstract. The court date creeps closer, and Mike can feel Abby slipping away, not because Abby wants to leave, but because adults with sharper smiles are preparing to force it. When Mike visits a job counselor, he meets Steve Raglan, a man whose helpful tone is too smooth to trust. Steve reviews Mike's record and offers the only position no one else wants: night security at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a closed entertainment center from the 1980s. The building has not been sold, not redeveloped, not even properly cleaned. The owner keeps it standing as if it is a shrine, and security guards are hired to prevent theft. The pay is low, but Mike accepts because low pay still beats no pay, and because employment is the only language the court will respect. Freddy Fazbear's is a frozen era. Faded posters of smiling mascots decorate the walls. Old party tables sit under layers of dust. Cobwebs cling to corners where children once hid during games. The stage dominates the dining hall, and on it stand the animatronics: Freddy the bear, Bonnie the rabbit, and Chica the chicken. Behind a curtain waits Foxy, a pirate fox with a grin shaped like an accusation. They are huge, heavy, and designed to look friendly, yet time has turned their faces into something eerie, like toys left outside too long. Mike settles into the cramped security office, a space filled with monitors, switches, and a stale smell of metal and old food. Instead of staying alert, he takes a sleeping pill. He does not fear the robots as much as he fears forgetting. He falls asleep at his desk, letting the dream pull him back toward Garrett. The nightmare plays again, but now the forest feels sharper, like a location his mind has rendered in higher resolution. He sees Garrett turn his head, hears the car door, and runs. He tries to focus on the kidnapper's hands, the shape of the silhouette, anything. The dream refuses clarity and wakes him with a jerk, sweat on his skin. He checks the cameras, checks the doors, tells himself nothing moved, and tells himself that fear is only chemistry. Outside, another plan is unfolding. Jane recruits Abby's babysitter, Max, and Max's brother. She pays them to break into Freddy's and vandalize it. Jane's logic is simple: if Mike loses this job too, she wins custody. Max and her crew arrive after hours with confidence, treating the place like a condemned playground. They smash tables, scatter kitchen utensils, and rip at anything that looks valuable, laughing at the silent robots as if they are harmless mannequins. Then the building changes mood. A sound rises from the stage. Not music, but a subtle mechanical shift. The animatronics begin to move. At first it looks like malfunction, then it becomes unmistakable intent. Freddy's head turns. Bonnie steps forward. Chica's arms lift. Foxy slips out of the shadows with the speed of a predator that has been waiting for permission. The intruders die without ever understanding what is killing them. A corridor becomes a trap. A supply closet becomes a tomb. The kitchen turns into a steel cage where Chica's heavy body corners a screaming target. Foxy sprints through the hallway and strikes with ferocious precision. Even Chica's small cupcake, a prop meant for children's laughter, seems to bite with a life of its own. The pizzeria swallows the violence as if it has swallowed worse before, and it does so without leaving proof. Max enters later, worried that her friends are taking too long. She follows a moving shadow and finds the animatronics standing in a loose circle, as if they have always been capable of gathering. She reaches them, realizes the mistake, and vanishes into the same darkness that took the others. The building does not leave bodies. It does not leave mess. By the time Mike wakes from his dream, the dining area looks almost normal. The smashed tables are set back into place. The signs of struggle are gone, as if the building itself edits the night. Mike goes home unaware, and the next day he waits for Max to babysit. Max never arrives. Her phone does not answer. Mike cannot leave Abby alone, so he takes her with him to work. It feels like a terrible decision, yet it becomes the one choice that reveals the truth. Abby steps into Freddy's with curiosity instead of fear. She notices details Mike ignores: the bright colors hidden under grime, the shapes of cartoon faces, the stage that still feels like a theater waiting for applause. She wanders toward the animatronics and Mike rushes after her, expecting a slaughter. Instead, he watches something impossible. The giant robots do not attack her. They kneel awkwardly. They clap. They build a fort from tables and chairs like children improvising a hideout. Abby laughs and twirls, and the machines respond like companions who have missed playtime for decades. Mike feels his stomach knot. These were the same figures that turned Jane's hired vandals into invisible victims. Why do they spare Abby? The answer arrives when Vanessa, a police officer who has been hovering around the case, steps into the building. She looks tired, haunted, and oddly unsurprised by the robot's behavior. She knows the history of Freddy's better than any officer should. When Mike presses her, she finally admits what the missing person posters never proved. The children who vanished in the 80s did not leave the building. They died there, and their souls remain trapped inside the animatronics, steering metal bodies like puppets with no strings. The revelation lands like a weight. Mike recognizes something in the way the machines move around Abby, a childlike need that feels familiar. He begins to suspect those trapped children are connected to Garrett's kidnapping. In his dreams, he has seen 5 pale figures in the distance, watching the forest scene like silent witnesses. If those are the same children, then they might know who took Garrett. Mike tries to be careful, but grief makes him reckless. He starts returning to work with a purpose beyond guarding doors. He uses sleeping pills to force deep dreams, hoping to enter a shared space where he can speak to the trapped souls. Each night he falls asleep in the office and chases the same fragment of memory, trying to push past the barrier that keeps the kidnapper faceless. Meanwhile, the animatronics' affection for Abby shifts. Their play becomes possessive. They want Abby to stay with them permanently, to join their family of trapped children. Abby's innocence is a doorway, and the pizzeria tries to close that doorway behind her. Mike senses the danger too late, the way people often realize danger only after it has already chosen them. On one night, Mike takes too many pills, desperate to push his dream deeper. The dream world opens wider, and the 5 children appear clearly. They look like children, but their eyes carry the stillness of spirits that have been waiting for decades. Mike reaches for Garrett, and the dream answers with a cruel kindness. It gives him a version of his brother, alive and smiling, frozen in a moment that never ages. The sweetness of that image attacks Mike's judgment. For a breath, he believes he can live there and never wake up. The dream demands a trade. It does not speak like a person, but the condition becomes clear through the children's intent. Mike can stay in the dream world with Garrett forever if Abby is given to Freddy's. In that moment, Mike's grief almost wins, then reality crashes in. Abby is not a bargaining chip. She is a child who depends on him. Mike tries to reject the trade, But the dream reacts like a trap that has already snapped shut. The children turn hostile, and the dream becomes violent. Mike is attacked and wakes screaming, not in his office but restrained in a mechanical chair. A device lowers a mask lined with sharp moving parts, a cruel mechanism meant to turn a person into an animatronic shell. The pizzeria has decided he is a threat, and it has a process for threats. Mike fights with panic and instinct. He twists, strains, and uses the machine's mechanical limits against it. He tears free and staggers through corridors as the animatronics close in, heavy footsteps and whirring joints echoing like a marching band from hell. He escapes the building injured, bleeding, and dizzy, only to realize the greater danger is not behind him but at home. Golden Freddy, a heavier bear with a deadlier presence, arrives at Mike's house. Aunt Jane is there, ready to threaten Mike again. Golden Freddy kills her swiftly, silencing her greed with supernatural finality. Then the bear takes Abby, carrying her back to the pizzeria like a prize promised to the trapped children. Mike discovers this and collapses into rage and terror, feeling as if the world has been waiting to steal Abby the same way it stole Garrett. He confronts Vanessa and forces the last secrets into the open. Vanessa reveals that the killer behind Freddy's was her father, a man who wore a yellow rabbit suit to lure children away. He murdered them and hid their bodies inside the animatronics, which is why police never found evidence. Worse, he still manipulates the trapped souls, steering them like puppets, turning their need for family into a weapon that serves his control. Vanessa has lived under that control for years, paralyzed by fear and guilt that she cannot scrub away. Mike refuses to lose Abby. He gathers equipment from Vanessa and returns to Freddy's, turning himself into a man who will run into hell if that is where his sister is. Vanessa follows, finally choosing to fight rather than hide. Inside the pizzeria, the animatronics are preparing to seal Abby into a mechanical suit. If the suit locks, Abby will be crushed by metal mechanisms meant for performance, not life. Mike charges into the room, uses a taser to disrupt one machine, and pulls Abby free. The escape lasts only seconds. The animatronics regroup and surround them. Then the true human villain appears. The yellow rabbit steps from the shadows with the confidence of someone who believes the building belongs to him. He moves with human agility inside the costume, stronger and faster than the machines, as if the suit amplifies cruelty. When the rabbit removes his mask, Mike realizes the trap has been in place from the beginning. The man is Steve Raglan, the counselor who offered the job, the one who guided Mike straight into the pizzeria. Steve attacks Mike with practiced brutality, intending to repeat his old crimes and add new bodies to his collection. Vanessa raises a gun at her father, shaken but determined. Steve tries to crush her resolve with contempt, the same way he has crushed her for years, but something in her has shifted. Vanessa fires. The shot is not enough to end him, but it breaks the spell of fear. Steve retaliates by stabbing her, spilling blood as punishment for her rebellion. Mike and Vanessa are wounded and cornered, and the animatronics hesitate, confused by the conflict between Steve's commands and the memory stirring inside them. Abby, small and trembling, finds the one tool that has always made her feel heard. She draws. Her crayons translate horror into a picture the trapped souls can understand. The yellow rabbit harming children. She slides the drawing toward Freddy and the others. The image acts like a key. The animatronics freeze, and something deep inside them awakens, like a song remembered after decades of silence. The trapped children remember. They remember the rabbit suit. They remember dying. Their loyalty to Steve collapses. Their eyes blaze with a new intensity as they turn on him. Steve tries to escape, but the building is a maze that favors the dead. His costume is a spring lock suit, old technology that can shift between performer and animatronic mode. Damage, moisture, and movement trigger the locks. Metal clamps snap inward, biting into his flesh. The suit becomes a killing device, crushing him the way he once crushed children, turning his own tool into a verdict he cannot appeal. Mike carries Abby out and supports Vanessa as the pizzeria groans behind them. They reach safety, but the victory is not clean. Vanessa falls into a coma, suspended between life and consequence. Mike and Abby visit her in the hospital, quieter now, bound by what they survived. Mike's obsession with the past loosens. He cannot bring Garrett back, but he can choose to live for Abby, and that choice is the first honest thing he has done in years. Time passes, and the story widens. The world hears rumors of Freddy's, half urban legend and half open wound. A children's festival revives the brand's bright surface, filling a public space with music and laughter. Yet the shadows behind the decorations remain, waiting for someone curious enough to wander off the path. A girl named Charlotte attends the festival and senses something wrong. While others dance, she watches the dark edges where lights do not reach. She sees a robotic figure carrying a small child away, moving with stealth that does not belong in a family event. Charlotte tries to alert adults, but they dismiss her as imaginative. Refusing to surrender, she slips into the restricted area alone. She finds the child and gets them out, but the act costs her. The machine turns on her, and Charlotte dies in the dark, leaving the festival to continue above her like nothing happened. Mike, Abby, and Vanessa are not fully free. Vanessa wakes with new scars in her mind. Nightmares cling to her, showing Freddy in dark corridors and her father's presence lurking behind every door. Abby returns to school carrying secrets that sound unbelievable. When classmates ask for scary stories, she speaks honestly, and teachers read it as disturbance rather than trauma. Abby's isolation deepens, and loneliness becomes an invitation for the wrong kind of comfort. A science class assigns a robotics project with a harsh deadline. Abby must build a robot in 7 days or face punishment. Mike tries to help, but he is still rebuilding himself, still haunted by the knowledge that an innocent mistake can become a catastrophe. Vanessa supports them, yet she is fragile, as if her connection to Freddy's never truly severed, as if the building left a hook in her heart and kept the line. Abby becomes desperate. She believes the animatronics once treated her as a friend, and that friendship might still protect her. She sneaks out and returns to Freddy's to find parts for her project, convinced she can control the risk. Mike discovers her absence and races after her, but the building has already begun to stir again, as if it sensed Abby's footsteps and woke up smiling. At the same time, a group of teenagers enters Freddy's for attention and internet fame. They film themselves in the dark, laughing at danger as if it were a costume. They find old artifacts and treat them like props. One of them discovers a music box, ancient and delicate, and wins it without understanding what the sound might summon or whom it might soothe. The melody wakes something hidden. A puppet-like figure emerges, a toy that looks harmless until it moves with purpose. The puppet attacks, and the teenagers' excitement becomes panic. In corridors and flooded spaces, small dolls and awakened machines turn the building into a slaughterhouse again. The laughter of the intruders dies quickly, replaced by the frantic rhythm of people realizing too late that they are not in control of the story they entered. Behind this new wave of violence is a boy named Michael, an outsider hungry for control. He lured his friends into Freddy's as bait, believing that fresh souls could power the machines and prove his worth. He underestimates what he is summoning. The building does not belong to him. The dead do not follow his rules, and hunger is not something that can be commanded without consequences. Elsewhere, Abby finds a Freddy mask that seems to speak in the language of comfort. It offers easy solutions and calls itself helpful, exploiting Abby's loneliness. Abby brings the animatronics to a school festival as part of her project, believing that showing them in daylight will tame their darkness. The plan collapses when a strict teacher destroys the display, humiliating Abby in front of everyone. Abby runs in tears toward the one place she believes will accept her, forgetting that acceptance from predators still ends in teeth. The mask convinces Abby to enter a code, promising it will fix what was broken. Abby, trusting the voice that feels friendly, types the sequence. The code is not repair, it is release. Locks disengage, systems activate, and the murderous potential of the machines floods back into motion, spilling out of the building's past and into the school's bright present. Mike and Vanessa learn that Charlotte's father holds a music box that can calm the animatronics, a tool tied to older rituals and older grief. They rush to the school, arriving as chaos erupts. Freddy and the others move through hallways like predators in a maze of lockers. The teacher who harmed Abby becomes a target and dies, and the panic spreads across the campus, turning classrooms into hiding places and doors into thin lies. Michael appears amid the terror and tries to command the machines, revealing that the souls inside them are not the original victims, but newer ones trapped through his manipulation. He has been using their rage like a remote control, believing cruelty can be engineered. Mike realizes there is only one way to break the cycle. He plays the music box. The melody floats through the air like a lullaby for the dead. The animatronics slow, their violence softened by memory and sorrow that the tune drags to the surface. Some machines respond differently, moving not with hunger, but with recognition. Good souls, trapped in other shells, push against the evil. They choose to defend the living, and their resistance turns the tide. Michael loses his grip. The machines he tried to own overwhelm him, and he dies beneath the weight of his own cruelty, erased by the very nightmare he fed. The immediate threat ends, but the curse refuses a clean finish. In the quiet after the sirens, a warning arrives through Charlotte's lingering spirit. The message is not comfort. It suggests that Freddy's is a doorway that stays open as long as certain people remain connected to it. Vanessa, tied to the history through blood and trauma, becomes vulnerable. A shadow of possession creeps toward her, implying the evil is not simply a man in a suit, but a pattern that can inhabit anyone close enough. Mike holds Abby tighter, understanding that survival does not guarantee safety. Freddy Fazbear's is not a single place. It is a story that keeps rewriting itself, feeding on grief, curiosity, and the human need to look backward. The laughter that once filled those rooms has turned into a lure, and the silence that followed has teeth.